Russia never expected this. Before sunrise, when the Polish border was still covered in morning fog, NATO surveillance detected something unusual. Something Moscow had not prepared for high above the frontier. In silent pre-dawn skies, a lone U.S. Navy MQ-25 Stingray circled with unnerving calm. At first, analysts assumed it was just another reconnaissance drone, but within minutes, that assumption collapsed. The MQ-25 wasn't supposed to be here. Not this close, not this quietly, and certainly not over Eastern Europe, one of the most sensitive flashpoints between NATO and Russia. The moment the Stingray's signal signature appeared on Russian early warning systems, everything changed. Radar crews scrambled. Air defense networks roared to life, command posts froze in confusion. Was this a secret surveillance run? A NATO pressure test? Or the silent opening move of a new kind of warfare? The Kremlin waited for confirmation, but what came next shocked them. America's first carrier-based stealth refueler had just entered the European battlespace, and it hadn't triggered a single alert on its way in. The question echoed through Russian intelligence circles. Why is America's stealth support drone suddenly scanning the Kremlin's western flank? Before understanding the impact, you have to understand the machine. The MQ-25 Stingray isn't a traditional drone. It represents a shift in modern combat doctrine. Built by Boeing for the U.S. Navy, it's the world's first autonomous aerial refueling system, designed to extend the combat radius of F/A, 18 Super Hornets, F-35s, and future stealth aircraft. But that's only half the story. The Stingray can perform long-range surveillance, electronic intelligence gathering, and secure data link operations, all while acting as a silent relay node between aircraft, satellites, and ships. In simple terms, it is everything at once: the eyes, the ears, and the invisible lifeline of U.S. air power. Its presence near Poland wasn't routine, it was strategic pressure, a message encoded in stealth. Days before the incident, satellite feeds noticed unusual activity at a U.S. base in Germany. A C-17 Globemaster landed under tight security, unloading sealed modules, encrypted comm terminals, and refueling units. Hours later, personnel reported seeing a Delta Wing drone being assembled in the hangar. No press release. No briefing. No NATO announcement. Just a quiet movement of operators, technicians, and specialized gear. Intelligence sources later confirmed the Stingray had been deployed as part of a covert NATO interoperability trial, one designed to simulate operations inside contested airspace. The troubling part? The exercise zone stretched dangerously close to Russia's most fortified territory, Kaliningrad. At exactly 0600 hours, the MQ-25 rolled onto the runway, no pilot on board. Just a remote team hundreds of kilometers away, controlling every movement. As the drone lifted into the cold morning air, its radar-absorbing skin shimmered faintly. It climbed rapidly, disappearing into the upper atmosphere. Analysts believe its mission was to link with U.S. F-35s stationed at Poland's Łask airbase, creating a live electromagnetic map of Russia's western defense systems. The Stingray's sensors soaked up everything: radar pulses, missile battery signatures, encrypted radio traffic, sending NATO a real-time digital portrait of Kaliningrad's air defense grid inside Russia's western military district. Panic spread quickly. Tracking centers picked up an unidentified object gliding along the border, but its readings didn't match anything in their database. It wasn't a fighter, wasn't a Reaper, wasn't a global hawk. It was something quieter, something almost ghost-like. Su-35 fighters were scrambled instantly, but by the time they approached the area, the drone had slipped off their radar screens as if it had dissolved into the sky. Operators reported distorted returns and signal drops, a sign the MQ-25 had outmaneuvered their detection methods entirely. That's when Moscow understood the real threat. This drone wasn't just stealthy, it was practically untouchable. When the Stingray returned to Polish airspace, NATO analysts rushed to decrypt and process the data. The information captured in that one short flight was unprecedented. Polish defense officials celebrated privately, calling the mission a breakthrough that proved NATO could run persistent surveillance on Russia without risking pilots. Within hours, Polish media leaked the story. Headlines exploded. Mystery U.S. drone near Kaliningrad. Russia scrambles jets. Videos of Russian interceptors chasing a vanishing target spread like wildfire. For NATO, it was technological dominance. For Russia, humiliation. Washington, however, viewed the operation differently. It was a signal, a clean, precise demonstration of capability. The US had just shown it could deploy unmanned stealth platforms right up to Russia's doorstep, and Moscow couldn't stop them. No violations, no threats, no missiles, just present strategic psychological pressure at its finest. European allies, especially Lithuania and Latvia, were stunned at how advanced the Stingray was. It didn't just evade detection, it rewrote the rules of aerial reconnaissance. Inside Moscow, officials issued angry warnings accusing NATO of aggressive provocation, while state TV flashed images of Kaliningrad's missile batteries preparing for counteraction. But behind closed doors, commanders faced an ugly reality. Their top-tier S-400 radar arrays had failed to track the Stingray consistently. As the story spread internationally, military experts debated whether this was the beginning of a new phase in drone warfare. China's analysts pointed out that if the MQ-25 could refuel stealth fighters mid-mission, it meant the US now possessed an invisible logistical chain stretching across Europe. Iranian media called it a rehearsal for a future global conflict. Western analysts argued it was a calculated pressure test to expose Russian radar weaknesses. Whatever the interpretation, one thing was clear: the Stingray had changed the game. In the days that followed, strange radar signatures began appearing across the Baltic region, faint, irregular, and resembling the MQ-25's stealth profile. Russian generals were forced to admit the unthinkable. They had no idea how many Stingrays were now operating in Europe. The fear wasn't the drone itself, but the uncertainty. For Russia, this wasn't surveillance, it was strategic encirclement, a new kind of silent siege. Inside the Pentagon, excitement replaced caution. The Stingray's success opened the door for escalation. Stealth refueling chains that could push F-35s deep into Russia, drone relay networks controlling surveillance swarms along the border, naval Stingrays launching from US carriers in the North Sea, and electronic warfare missions mapping every centimeter of Russian defenses. America had discovered a way to project overwhelming power without crossing a visible red line, while Russia felt that line had already been shattered. In Moscow's Ministry of Defense, a crisis meeting unfolded. Reports showed that Kaliningrad's S-400 network had failed to secure a stable lock on the drone. Signal disruptions were recorded across multiple sectors. In response, Russia rushed MiG-31BM interceptors armed with R-37 long-range missiles to the region. Boasting they could hunt stealth drones at extreme altitudes, new anti-drone drills were ordered. State TV reassured the public that Russia's skies were safe. But internally, experts whispered the truth. Russia's air defense umbrella, its pride, had been digitally bypassed.